All right, I understand the live stream is up, and I'd like to welcome everybody. This is a special meeting of Mahomet-Seymour Board of Education. It is 6:02 p.m. on Monday the 18th, and we're going to. Do we have any public comment for this?
No.
Okay, public comment for the main meeting. Okay. Could we have roll call, please?
Giles.
Here.
Keith. Hendricks.
Here.
Schultz.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
Hennessy. McComb.
Here, and we will stand if you can for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Boomers have had a chance to look at the agenda for this special meeting. Is there a motion to approve that agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion on the agenda? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No public comment for this meeting, correct? Okay. This time a closed session is necessary to discuss litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of a particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the meeting. Is there a motion to go into closed session for that reason at this time?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Hennessy.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Keith. Giles.
Yes.
Hendricks. Larson.
Yes.
McComb.
Yes. All right, so we're going to go into closed session. For those that are listening on the public live stream, we'll be back at 7 o'clock for the regular meeting. We're not anticipating any business from the closed session to take place following the closed session. There will be business, of course, starting at 7 o'clock when we have the regular monthly meeting. So board members, if you would log out of the WebEx feed that you're on, and then log back in on the closed session WebEx feed, that would be great. And we'll allow 3 or 4 minutes to do that.
Kevin.
Hi, Heather. I have to take my mute off.
Yeah, sorry, we ran a little bit long and closed.
That's all right. I had another meeting at 7 too, so I did that.
So that worked. Okay, good.
Yep.
Jeremy,
Yes.
as long as everything passes tonight, I have a million documents for you to sign sometime.
Okay.
Because you're the secretary now. So.
I can stop by.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just let me know when.
Why am I ever glad?
I know it's all the pinks.
That's nothing. I sign a lot of stuff all day long.
You're all the pinks. And then Kevin, I got to figure out the county clerks. Are they closed?
Just send all that stuff. I think there's an envelope that came with it to send it back. Don't worry about any county clerk signatures or regional superintendent signatures. We will take care of those when they come back in. We'll send them out FedEx because
Okay.
we have to mail stuff to them right now. They're not open for walk-in business.
That's what I thought, because I can get an electronic signature from our regional though.
Yeah. Well, I think we got to have a physical anyway, so
Okay.
send it all back. I'm not sure if it's going to, the envelope goes to Deb or if it's going to back to Stephanie, but she should have sent an envelope with it.
Yes, he did.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are live. Okay, so welcome to our board members. Welcome to the public. Board members, we just finished a 6 o'clock special meeting that dealt mostly with some closed session legal issues. And before we start the regular meeting, which we will in about a minute, I need to make sure, first of all, that we have all board members back. I see Colleen's there, Ken's there. All right, we're good. So board members, we just finished the closed session. We are back in open session. Is there a motion to adjourn the special meeting?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of adjourning the special meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Now, it is 7:40 p.m. And at this time, I'd like to call to order the regular monthly meeting of the Mahomet-Seymour Board of Education. It's Monday the 18th. And if you're a visitor or if you're a member of the public that wants to participate during the public input times, on the link that went out with this is Dawn's email address, and you would send that email to Dawn. And then we would read that into the record when we get to the appropriate spot. And we appreciate everyone distancing tonight and being safe. And I'd like to welcome those who I can see on the video screen, which are all of our board members. Kevin Hyde is here to present to us later in the evening. I think Christine Northrop, Nicole Rummel, and Heather Smith from the district are with us also. So thank you, everyone. We have roll call, please.
Giles,
Yes. Yes.
Keith,
Here.
Hendricks,
Here.
Schultz,
Here.
Larson,
Here.
Hennessy, McComb.
I am here, and we're going to stand, if you can, for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Board members, you have seen the agenda ahead of time. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda. I'd like to propose one addition. And as under regular business, we add a section tonight to talk about the district's COVID response. It's been asked that we do that. So if we could approve the agenda with that addition, that would be in order. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there further discussion? All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Wait, stop. Is there an opposed?
There was either a late aye on the affirmative or there was an opposed. Was there an opposed or was that just a time delay? Just so we know.
That was a late aye.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. I'll try to add enough time in for the time delay. Consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda includes minutes of previous meetings, bills to be paid, treasurer's report, personnel changes, LEA determination, 1920-21 IESA and IHSA dues and renewals, some surplus property, and one new activity fund at the high school. Would anyone like to remove anything from the consent agenda for individual discussion? Hearing nothing. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there further discussion on the consent agenda? Dawn, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Hennessy.
No.
Schultz.
No.
Keefe.
Yes.
Giles.
Yes.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Larson. Yes. McComb.
Yes, and the consent agenda is approved. Donations, Dr. Hall.
Thank you. We have an amazing amount of donations, just a testament to the generous folks of our community and beyond. We have a donation of $75 from Lisa Powell to the Give Me 5 backpack food bag program. We have a donation of $1,000 from the Shell Oil Company Foundation to Bridget Graham's classroom at Lincoln Trail. We have a $500 donation in cash for Mom's Pantry from Ron and Margaret White. Another $1,000 cash donation to Mom's Pantry from Modern Woodman. An anonymous donation of $700 of cash to be split between Mom's Pantry and the Social Work Fund for families in need. Domino's donated 115 large one-topping pizzas for distribution to our families with a value of $1,500, our local Domino's franchise. Shout out to Seth Emerson there. United Way of Champaign County, a $1,500 donation to the school district of cash for supplies to support learning at home for our younger students. An anonymous donation of $7,500 for the purchase of another Clorox 360 machine, with the balance of that going to the Give Me 5 food bag program. And then multiple online donors, a total of $18,440 given to the Give Me 5 food program between beginning of the calendar year, January 1st until May 13th. So that's a grand total of $32,215, and just want to say thank you for all of that. at a time when more and more people are in need. There's a lot of support for a lot of different things, but in particular for food distribution in our community, and just amazing and generous. Thank you.
There's some tremendous donations there. Is there a motion to approve the donations as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on donations. Roll call vote, please.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Hennessy.
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Giles,
Yes.
Keith,
Yes.
McComb.
Yes. Okay, it is communication time. Do we have anything that was sent in from the PTO or the MSEA?
No.
Lori, anything from the foundation?
Yes, the foundation had their scholarship committee meet, and they had a member be virtually awarding scholarships last week. They gave out 11 scholarships for the Mahomet-Seymour Education Foundation, and 21 kids were recipients of those. So that was exciting. And those kids found out, I think, via paper document. And all of the money from the foundation obviously is either donations or money that's raised through the Bulldog Bash. So that was a really awesome way to put that right back to the kids.
Dawn, what do we have from visitors?
I just have one public comment from Penny Weaver. Penny writes, my last day as editor of the Mahomet Citizen was May 15th, 2020. I will now be living and working in Mattoon as I did before coming to the Citizen. It was a difficult decision to leave and is purely a personal move for me as I came to love Mahomet quickly after arriving at the Citizen. I would like to thank everyone involved with Mahomet-Seymour schools, board members, administrators, teachers, staff, coaches, students, and parents for helping me practice good journalism to the best of my ability in covering Mahomet-Seymour. I can honestly say I've not met a single person who has not been helpful, friendly, and encouraging. I do not think I have ever seen a school district better than Mahomet-Seymour in so many ways. I have truly enjoyed my time here, and I wish you all well. My best wishes to the Mahomet-Seymour School District and community for what I know will be a bright future. Thank you all so much. Sincerely, Penny Weaver, former editor, The Mahomet Citizen.
That's really nice. That's too bad.
We will miss him. And that was our only comment. Okay. So next it's time for board communication, and we'll start, and I'll just go around the squares, and we'll start with Colleen because she's in the top row.
I have nothing for tonight. Thank you.
All right, and moving through the squares, I guess Ken is next.
I just want to echo the thanks for those incredibly generous donations. I know times are really tough for everyone, and it's really amazing to see how our communities come together while still staying safe and distant from each other. And I just encourage everyone to continue to stay home if they can, stay safe and stay healthy. Best luck.
All right, well, my plan to go around the squares is spoiled as you jump when you talk. So I guess we'll go to Merle because he's on top now.
I'm not on the top on my screen, but I have nothing for tonight.
Okay. Megan.
I'll just say it was a strange end to the school year, but school's out for summer. So thank you to all the students and the teachers for really an unprecedented, weird time. I think everybody did a good job. It was good for the students to stay engaged. I saw lots of teachers going above and beyond. So not under the best of circumstances, but pretty proud of the way everybody navigated an uncharted and unknown time together. So thanks for all your hard work and dedication. And maybe we'll get a little bit of well-deserved rest for a couple of days.
Jeremy.
I just want to say thank you to Chad and Lindsay and everyone else who was involved in putting graduation together. I know it's not ideal and not what everybody wanted. I know that there were probably some students and families questioning whether they should even participate because they felt like maybe it was less than what they wanted. But we did what we could within the guidelines that were given us. And I think it's still significant for those that participated, a rite of passage that although they didn't necessarily have that time together as a class in one evening, but it's still a significant time that will be remembered by them. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Lori?
I was excited that we have a new activity fund for Mom's Pantry, so that goes along with the lines of generous giving. I'm grateful to our community for that. I will echo what Jeremy said to the district staff, the graduation ceremony. I'm glad that we had the opportunity and join us on Friday evening at 7:30 to watch it on Bulldog TV because it'll all be streamed together. And two more things, like I just want people to know that we hear their anxiety and nervousness about everything, and it's all in charter territory for everyone. There's no plan book, and so we just have to put our trusting relationships together and count on our leaders to lead, and I want to get behind that. And I'll close on how cool was it that our community members put together the signs and had them in the kids' yards for the seniors and the other kids. That was really awesome. So again, thank you for our generosity community, and just stay with us because we're trying to stay Bulldog strong.
Just, I guess to add on to what people have said tonight, you know, this was not the end of the school year that we anticipated. It was the end of the school year that we ended up having to have. I don't think any of us were excited that it ended the way it did. I think we all understand for the most part why things happened the way they did. I know we had some families that wish we could have done more at graduation. To be fair, I think we also had some families that were fearful that we did as much as we did. And it was a fine line to walk, and the guidelines were pretty specific, and I sure appreciate Chad Benedict and our folks at the high school and everything they did to pull that off. Students, a lot of you, some of you might be listening tonight, I don't know, there were a lot of you missed some things these last few months. And there are things that can't be made up. For the most part, I hope as a community, some of the things we did do, let you know that you are loved and appreciated, and that you are every bit as special as those who went before you and those that come after you that maybe get to see things done more the way we normally do. But we have had a lot of folks go out of the way to try to do some things to make life special. We can't replace the moments that we didn't have, but hopefully we were able to create some moments we wouldn't have otherwise had. So we'll regroup over the summer. It's, you know, people ask us, what is fall going to look like? You don't know. I think it's safe to say that fall won't look like fall usually looks like. There will be some differences. I hope it looks more like the way fall usually looks like than the way spring was, but we'll see. Our staff is working very hard to put some things together and to get us in a position where we're ready. And I know a lot of our people have just worked extra hard in lots of ways to try to be creative and do things differently and adapt. And we sure appreciate everything everyone has done to do that. All right. Next up is financial update, and that's Heather.
We are trending. We are trending with the budget still. We just got February 2020's sales tax, and it was in line with what we had anticipated. So next month will be, interesting because it'll be into the March where we started the COVID situation. Otherwise, everything is going as planned at this point.
Okay, I know Heather included all of the normal financial data in the packet. Is there any questions for Heather on anything financial? All right, well, we'll hear from her a little more later on in the agenda. Dr. Hall.
Okay, just a couple things I want to review about the end of the school year, and then talk a little bit about starting the planning process for next year. First and foremost, I just want to take the opportunity to recognize our retirees. It had been my intent long before the pandemic started to start to recognize our employees at the May board meeting. And I'd like to do that starting in 2021 now, but for tonight, we'll just settle with reading their names. And we're going to miss these 8 people. They've put in many years of service, all doing different things, but nonetheless having a long impact on our children in so many different ways. So our retirees this year are Lori Zimmerman, 6th grade language arts at the junior high, Beth Musgrove, 3rd grade at Lincoln Trail, Kim Lavin, special ed at Mahomet-Seymour High School, Chris Russell, speech language pathologist here at Middletown Prairie, Cheryl Hassler, paraprofessional at our high school, Linda Duran, bus driver, Jay Watts, a bus driver, and Deb Colley, educational office professional here at Middletown Prairie. So we thank them for their many years of service. Some of these folks retired mid-year, but we plan on honoring them and celebrating their retirement this Friday morning at 9 o'clock in the high school auditorium. We won't have an audience there, but we'll broadcast that ceremony live on Bulldog TV. And then we plan to have a little parade in the parking lot with our staff coming through the high school parking lot and seeing our retirees. So thank you for your many years of service and positive impact on our kids. Also this Friday evening, we will have a parade through the parking lot at the high school to honor our senior class of 2020. And then we will be broadcasting the graduation ceremony from the Saturday, May 16th. We're having a video professionally made of that ceremony. I think it's going to be absolutely beautiful, and we'll broadcast that at 7:30 Friday night on Bulldog TV. I had the honor of being in the gym on Saturday, and I can tell you that the speeches that were made were absolutely the best I've ever heard, and I've heard a lot of graduation speeches. So the kids were amazing. Mr. Benedict's speech was very touching, and it was a great ceremony. We all recognize that it wasn't what we would have really wanted, but kudos to the high school staff that just did an incredible job on that. I do want to talk a little bit about the closure of the school year, and I want to take the time and just take a few minutes to say thank you to so many different people. I'm not going to name off hundreds of people, but there literally are hundreds and thousands of people in our community and in our schools that deserve acknowledgement and words of thanks for what they've done, in particular over the last 8 weeks, certainly for the whole school year, but then we really redesigned and retooled education all over, but we did it here in Mahomet-Seymour at the very end of March. And first and foremost, just thank you to our students. Thanks for sticking with it. It was a very different way of delivering material, and they did a great job. So thank you to all of our students. Certainly our teachers and our other staff members had to completely redo what they were trained to do. Transportation, paraprofessionals, everybody, our educational office professionals, everybody was doing something different. We want to thank our leadership team, our principals and our directors and just the entire leadership team has worked tirelessly alongside of everybody else. Our jobs have all looked very different, and just really appreciate the commitment to our kids. And our parents deserve a huge round of applause and thanks. This impacted them greatly. Many people were holding down jobs or all of a sudden working at home, and then also teaching their kids at home and supporting what we were doing. And so kudos to our parents for hanging in there. And I know that everybody, it's no secret that we're pretty happy to see remote learning come to a close. I'm just going to say it. It was meant to be a temporary fix for this spring, and not something to continue for the long, long term. And finally, just want to say thank you to our community and to the Board of Education. There's just been tremendous support. So thank you, Board, for your support of everything that we've needed to do, and to our community. I think the donations this evening are a reflection of the support that we've received in so many ways, and how important this school and how important our children are to our community members. And so just a thank you. And it's an honor to be able to work here and work beside all of these people I've mentioned, and just appreciate everything that everybody's done in this very, very unusual and unprecedented time. I do want to talk a little bit about food distribution as well. Our food distribution through Arbor Management, which has been providing breakfast and lunch since Monday, March 23rd, will stop this Friday. This Friday is the last day for the distribution of the grab-and-go bags with breakfast and lunch. And by the time we stop this Friday, we will be somewhere around 20,000 meals distributed in the last 8 weeks. So just want to say thank you to Shannon Cross, who's our food service manager, and Rachel, Wendy, and Susan, who've been busy in the kitchens every single day preparing and distributing, and also to our transportation department for getting those meals out to folks who couldn't pick them up. So that food distribution is going to end, but we are going to continue with the Give Me 5 food bag program. We'll continue deliveries of that on Friday, and then Mom's Pantry will also continue to be open Mondays and Thursday mornings from 9 to 11, and then Thursday evenings from 5:30 to 7:30. So we do want to know if there's families out there in need of any food this summer. The donations that we've received can help support this over the summer. And so we do want to hear from folks. If they're in need, please just give us a call or reach out to someone that you know who works in the school district, and we will make that happen.
For those watching that might be interested but don't know, if you knew somebody that maybe needed to be directed to Mom's Pantry during those hours, where is Mom's Pantry located?
Great question. Thanks for bringing that up. Mom's Pantry is located behind the high school in what we call the Care Center. There's a big building out there right between the high school and the football field. And when it's open, there's a sign out there that says Pantry, and Cindy Brumfield will be there to greet you and help out. So that's where that's located.
And you can make donations to it because it has an activity fund, so.
Because we approved that tonight. Any questions for Dr. Hall?
Can I talk about one more thing?
Oh, I'm sorry. No. Yes, go ahead.
So I do want to just mention that it is now time to start thinking about how we're going to start school next year. And I know that that's, usually we take a break on that because we have a pretty solid idea in normal times of what school is going to look like, and we have a date and a time and a place, and we have the traditional picture of what it looks like to start school. But we don't know that this year, and therefore there is a lot of planning that needs to be done, probably mostly in the next month or so, because there is so much unknown about what school is going to look like in the fall. And so we are getting together a group of employees, which is right now the name is the Reopening Task Force. I don't know if that's the name that we'll stick with. But this is a group of our staff members that are representing all of our employee groups We're going to meet for the first time next week on the 27th, and we're going to start the planning process for next year. We probably need multiple plans and options that are integrated with the Restore Illinois plan and also with guidance from the Illinois Department of Public Health to determine, what it is we can do as we move ahead and what is going to be safest for our students and our staff. I think it's safe to say that the start of school next year is going to look different. At the same time, it is extremely important to me, and I know our leadership team, and I feel confident speaking for our staff, that having our students back in school is very, very important. That has to be done, though, again, under guidelines that we will be given, and so that planning process needs to start. But our kids have been out of school a long time, and school provides a safe, warm learning environment, and it's a place where children go. There's a lot of other emotional benefits, extracurricular activities, in addition to the academic part of school. And so we have some planning to do, and I wish I had more answers right now. There's a lot of guidance that's coming out. We are also awaiting guidance from the State Board of Education on what school can and should look like. But much of it will be determined by the guidance that comes forth from us from the state and Illinois Department of Public Health. So that's.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you anticipate getting, now I realize things can change between now and August, but guidance that would come out of the legislature this week?
No,
Okay.
I don't think that's not where it's going to come from.
Okay.
We might get some other information from our state legislators who are convening in Springfield this week, and there's a lot to take care of, and I know that they're meeting in some non-traditional places.
Sure.
and that type of thing, but it is time for them to start working on a budget and
Right.
some other really big questions. But in terms of opening school,
Okay.
that's going to come in from the plan that the governor has put forth in conjunction with the Illinois Department of Public Health and the Illinois State Board of Education.
Thank you.
I will point out, since Dr. Hall didn't, one of the groups that is having some input into what schools will look like in the fall is the what they call, I guess, the SWAT team, for lack of a better term. But it was the group of a handful of superintendents and educational officials that the State Board of Ed put together when the shutdown happened, and it's kind of been advising and helping and been a sounding board and offering ideas, and did a lot of work, I think, on remote learning and all the other initial obstacles we faced when we closed schools. And Dr. Hall continues to serve on that little elite group, and that group is working to provide some thoughts and some feedback on what school could look like in the fall. So we'll know as soon as anybody else does, probably, exactly what school's going to look like in the fall. But I feel good that we have a leader here that has some input and at least her finger on the pulse of what's going on at the state level. So
Thank you.
that's great. And thank you for your time serving on that as a public servant in Illinois. It was,
My pleasure.
okay. Any other questions or comments for Dr. Hall?
I've got
Sure.
Dr. Hall, thank you for the reopening task force and beginning that planning process. I know that's going to be extremely complicated with a lot of uncertainties. Can you just speak to what role you see the community and by extension us, the Board of Education, having in that planning process? So basically,
Sure.
any non-staff members, what role will they have in that?
Well, I think it's, we're going to get some specific guidance about what school can look like, and we plan on actually later this week getting out a survey to our parents. We'd like to hear back from them on a number of different issues, one of which is connectivity, moving ahead, and devices that are available. and also get some feedback on just kind of their thoughts on what school could look like. Although it's important to frame all of this into, as you said, this is a really complicated and ever evolving and changing situation. And the plan that the governor released earlier in May, the Restore Illinois plan, has some very specific metrics about moving ahead through different stages that are ultimately going to have a lot of bearing on what it looks like to open schools. I'm open to ideas about how the community can participate, but we're also going to be getting guidance on what that looks like. As far as the board, I would bring forth recommendations to the board about what it is that the reopening task force has put together. We have a lot of different kind of subtopics that the task force is going to need to deal with. So teaching and learning is certainly a big part of that. But then there's also issues related to like facilities and sanitizing, and then transportation, and also health and medical issues. Our school nurse is on the task force. So, there's information that's coming forth now from the CDC about screening for symptoms and things like that. So what I see is starting internally with the task force, and if there's a need and a place for community members to participate, by all means, that's welcome. But I think next week's meeting, we need to kind of assess where we're at with the information that we have at that time.
Board members to serve in these committees and represent the community that way?
If I leave that up to the board
at large.
Interested in serving on that task force, if that was the question.
I would as well.
I would like to make a proposal that whatever it is, that we get the assessment material and information back from the community, which Dr. Hall will share with us, and then we kind of move on a little bit from there also. So we see what people are thinking. We can all have our opinions, but there are legislation issues and education issues that I really want to entrust our educators to do that portion of it. Which I think you can't really define what that is until you know what's going to be laid out by what your expectations are from the state, right?
I think it makes sense to utilize our board committee. There's a facilities subcommittee on the task force, and we have a facilities board committee.
And we have a policy.
Right.
You hear that, Megan? You hear me?
I would be afraid of muddying the waters here, and my preference would be to have our educators and staff come up with the details, and we can operate at a higher level, guide decision-making process. But I'm just afraid that we're going to clog it up if we get too many voices involved. And, I think we should leave that up to the people who are, handling the day-to-day education of our students. And obviously we're going to have some input, but we've got a short period of time to try and figure out what's going to happen over the next few months and be ready to go in the middle of August. And I think we've got to start piecing things together. And sometimes it just drags things out. So I think the best thing to do is streamline the process and just get it done.
And that's what I'm saying. Don't get it, and you can tell us what's going on if we feel the need that we need to be informed.
I'm bringing up, we actually have,
I concur with that, Jeremy.
Board meeting on the, I can update on the 8th, I can update on the 22nd.
I think one of the things we're going to find is we can come up with all the plans we want to come up with, but I think in the end, much of the plans can be dictated by the state. And what we're gonna get the plan is how we implement it. I doubt that the governor and the state are gonna allow 900 districts to come up with 900 plans.
I would agree.
My guess is, at some point, they're gonna say, here's how you're gonna do it. At best, it might differ slightly by zone of the state or county, maybe. But it's certainly not gonna be individualized district by district. I think a lot of these are operational details that our ops people are gonna have to figure out. That's my thought. But any other thoughts from board members?
We could allow anyone who wants to participate and those who don't to not. I know that I've enjoyed being part of the district instructional resource team, maybe it's called this year. Just gave me more insight into what was happening. And so, you know, I would be interested in just being part of the teaching and learning. Ken sounds like he'd be interested in being part of the facilities. You know, if someone wants to, they can, and if they don't, they don't. Just be up to each person.
I would concur with Jeremy. I think this is, at this point, a thing that the staff has to start working on. But it's up to the board to decide that.
I don't feel like it's our place to insert our authority that way. There's a difference between interested and being part of the planning.
When's the next opportunity to update us? On the 8th, you said?
Yeah. We have a special meeting that night. Can certainly put an update in there. That'd be very easy.
It's already difficult enough to get remote this going on, because like I can't see some people, I can't hear some people, so the more people you add doesn't necessarily make it more efficient.
Is most of this gonna be done via remote meeting, I'm assuming?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not an obstacle.
How about if we get an update in a couple of weeks on the 8th? And then maybe we have a better idea at that point what's being dealt with. I'll throw that idea out there.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
I mean, I want to know what's going on just like everyone else, because people will come to us, but the best thing when people come to us is we direct them to the chain of command.
Any other questions, thoughts for Dr. Hall? Okay. First item under regular business is the meeting schedule. The meeting schedule came up at our last meeting. And at that point, we instructed Dr. Hall to go back and maybe add some optional dates for additional study sessions. She did that and sent that back out. Was there any comments on what came back out?
I emailed the board after the last meeting and explained the rationale for the schedule. So this reflects basically the original board meeting calendar schedule with the added study sessions in September, January, and March.
There was one more, but that ended up, then we originally talked about adding a 4th month, a study session. And what was the rationale on that? There was rationale on that, I know there was.
It doesn't, I believe it was in April, except the first Monday in April is,
Easter Monday.
right, not a work day. And then the day following is election night.
Yeah.
So it was just better to go with one study session in April. This just wasn't a date that worked out well.
All the study sessions on here are normal scheduled study sessions. And a study session can always be canceled or not. We have a lot of business, but that's a question.
We've canceled study sessions before. Okay, any comments, questions, feedback on the schedule?
Thanks for sending it to us in advance.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the schedule?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion?
I would actually like to move to amend it to say that September 14th is our budget hearing. We know that by law we have to have a budget hearing. And so if we would put that on September 14th, we would know ahead of time when to expect that.
I thought it was scheduled for the 21st. It's prior to the meeting, no?
It's typically been at 6:30 prior to the regular meeting in September.
Okay, so typically, I don't know,
I mean, I already have that on my calendar, so.
typically we do it at 6:30 on the 21st, but you'd want to move that to the 14th. Heather, do you have any thoughts on that?
That's fine. I don't have any reason.
It would just give people an opportunity to digest the information and understand more between the budget hearing and the vote.
I'm fine with that. Everybody else?
I'm going to second Colleen's motion just so that we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's.
Okay. So the schedule is as presented, with the 14th becoming a pre-planned budget hearing.
And so it won't be a study session then.
Okay.
Right?
I'm sorry?
It won't be a study session then, it'll just be the budget hearing.
It'll be a budget hearing.
Okay.
All right, any further discussion? Have a roll call vote on that, please.
Keith,
Yes.
Ken?
I vote
I vote
yes.
yes. Carson,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
Hendricks, Schultz,
Yes.
Giles,
Yes.
McComb.
Yes. Okay, under new business, item 1, just 2021 parent-student handbook, Dr. Hall?
Right, there's just a couple of revisions to the district student parent handbook this year, and these handbook changes went through a succession of different people and groups for review and have made their way to the board tonight. So first of all, our principals took these changes to their campus conversation meetings on Monday, March 9th. Our legal counsel reviewed them earlier in May, and then the Parent Teacher Advisory Committee reviewed them electronically on May 11th at a virtual meeting. So no changes came forth from there. I answered a couple of questions from some parents. But just to briefly go over the changes, our 4 assistant principals, Mr. Bailey, Mr. Fisher, Mr. O'Connell, and Mr. Day worked on revising our attendance policy that appears in the handbook. And the new language, first of all, brings about consistency because they all worked on it together and talked about it and what would work best. And so this language reflects a collaborative effort reflecting all grade levels. We also wanted to list some of the interventions. It's not limited to these 8 things, but some of the different things that we might try to work with families and students on to improve attendance. keeping in mind that throughout this time, there are messages from Skyward that go home and other types of contact that often occurs. And we also wanted to outline the definitions of chronic absenteeism and chronic truancy, since both of those data sets are reported to the state for inclusion on the Illinois school report card. So another change in this language for this new attendance policy is it removes the requirement to bring in a doctor's note to excuse absences. And we had a lot of discussion about that at our leadership team meetings, and felt that requiring a note just to make an absence excused often requires families to go get a note, to perhaps pay a copay to get a note. And the overall goal is to have kids in school and to improve attendance if we need to. That doesn't mean a doctor's note would never be required, but it isn't just always part of the exact procedure that we go through to excuse absences. We feel that a variety of interventions is appropriate. And if students are having attendance issues, these are handled on a case-by-case basis with a lot of communication, meetings with the student, with the parents, that type of thing. So those are some changes to the attendance policy. We also needed to add some language to our handbooks regarding sexual harassment. There's a new law, it's also reflected in one of our board policies, that requires age-appropriate language in our student-parent handbook that addresses sexual harassment. It's not easy to find age-appropriate language, and so we approach this through providing different resources that parents could utilize that would be in the handbook, or students for that matter. And hopefully that this, provides a toolkit of sorts if that is the kind of conversation that's needed or that parents want to have with their kids. We certainly would encourage that so that everybody is aware of what sexual harassment looks like. And we do address that somewhat through the teaching of Aaron's Law, and then also through some of our curriculum in the junior high and high school as well. But this new law does require that we have age-appropriate language in our handbooks about sexual harassment. And then the other change is a change to our acceptable use policy. The changes in the language are found in bold print, and those came forth through some discussions in our policy committee way back at the beginning of this year, and want to thank Mrs. Hennessy for these suggestions, and they provide more clarity to the policy and in terms of whose responsibility is what, and also keeps a lot of the language that we have. So those are the changes suggested for the district student parent handbook.
Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the handbooks as presented. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I looked I did not see the actual language from the handbook in our board pack. Did I miss it?
I couldn't understand what you said. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I said I did not see all of these language changes in the board packet. Did I just miss them?
Page 126 through 131.
Yeah.
It was these are just the changes. We didn't get the handbook in its entirety.
No, I did not send the entire handbook. The changes.
And the changes were, I had a hard time understanding where the change, it's just the new language, right? I couldn't tell where the changes had taken place.
So the attendance policy, I did not include the old attendance policy. It's only a couple paragraphs. The sexual harassment language is brand new. Like, this is not in the current handbook. And then the acceptable use policy changes are in bold print font in what's in the board packet starting on page 128.
And how many parents reviewed this document and gave us feedback on it from the committee?
I don't know how many parents attended the campus conversations meetings in March. And then the parent-teacher advisory group has, I think, about 12 parents on it, and as well as teachers from all levels and a couple of administrators and our school resource officer and our school nurse. I did not get feedback from the entire group. I got feedback, I think, from 4 parents, 3 of whom said everything is fine. 1 of whom said, I have some questions and I'll get back to you. And then that person ended up not having questions. No one logged into the virtual meeting that I had, which was kind of a Q&A feedback opportunity. So the opportunity was there. I felt it was offered to that group, and this is the group that the handbook typically goes through.
And it was gone over at Campus Conversations.
It was on March 9th.
Yeah.
Other questions for Dr. Hall? Okay. A roll call, please.
Giles,
Yes.
Keith,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Schultz,
No.
Larson,
Yes.
Hennessy,
No.
McComb.
Yes. Okay. Next item, resolution providing for the issue of approximately $1,235,000 in general obligation refunding school bonds, alternative revenue source, series 2020 of the district for the purpose of refunding certain outstanding books of the district, providing for the pledge of certain certificates or certain revenues to the payment of principal and interest of the bonds, providing for the levy of direct annual tax sufficient to pay such principal and interest if pledged against are insufficient to make such a payment, and authorizing the sale of said bonds to the purchaser thereof. All right, so what this stems from is, in the last couple of times Kevin's been with us, he's mentioned we had an opportunity to basically refi some of the bonds and save us, save the district some money. And last time when we had him on his little square on the screen, last month, we asked him to go ahead and look into doing that. So Heather?
Yes, this is actually very good news. Mahomet-Seymour issued bonds back in 2010. And right now we were able to go out into the market and do what is called a refunding. I look at it almost like a refinancing, but the thing is that we don't extend the term or anything. We just get a lower interest rate. So, we went from 4.4 to 4.9 down to 1.98 for these bonds. What this will do is they were initially based off of alternative revenue bonds, which means comes from our sales tax. What ultimately this means is that we're going to save money for the next 10 years instead of having to have to pay less for these bonds than we had to before. So initially we thought we were going to have a savings about 100,000. After Stiefel did their great job, we actually got a an offer from Commerce Bank at 1.98%. And it's a savings of $165,000 over the 10-year time span, which is, amounts to probably about $15,000 per year. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it is savings. So if you have any questions for Kevin, they did all the hard work, went out and got in cover. It's been great to us these last two audits.
So existing bonds, we don't extend the term, we don't borrow any more money, all we really do is cut the rate and save $167,000. Kevin's not. Kevin, what would you like to add to that?
I would just say that that's net savings. That's after all the costs are factored in, you're saving $165,000 over 10 years, about $16,500 a year on average. And in light of, sales tax situation, that's probably a good thing right now. I would also share with you that beginning July 1, a significant amount of online retailers will now have to charge the full local sales tax on their online sales, including the sales tax for schools. While we might be missing out on some because of COVID, we might pick up a little bit now in the online areas. So that, of course, some time to filter through the system. It starts July 1st, so retailers don't report that then for a couple months or pay it for a couple months. So we'll see how it all works out, but I think it's a step in the right direction.
Awesome.
Good. Okay, any questions for Kevin or Heather?
Max, can you hear me?
I can.
I'd like to make a motion that we send this to the Finance Committee and table it for now.
Okay.
Second that so we can have discussion.
You want to add some explanation on that?
This is just a pretty significant, and I think we need to discuss it in committee first.
I think it's a pretty significant positive thing to save money. I don't know why we need to discuss it any further. Why wouldn't we accept a 1.98% rate?
And $165,000.
I'm not saying that.
Did
I'm just saying let's discuss it in the Finance Committee.
help me as a point of order, did we put this on the table as a motion already or not? No. Okay.
Kevin and Heather, what would that do with the paperwork that's been prepared and the resolution and all of that?
All of that would have to be redone. You'd also have to go back to the purchaser and see if they're willing to hold the rate.
Yeah, I think we're going to get much better rate than 1.98% either. I'd like 1.98% on my house.
I think I'd like to make a motion that we approve it.
There's a motion.
Well, we've got a motion on the floor. Has it been seconded? Is there a second to send it to the Finance Committee?
Discussion. So yes, there is a second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to send to the Finance Committee. So we either need to vote on that or amend it.
I feel that if Ken wants to send it to the Finance Committee, we sort of have precedent to do that. In the past, I asked for something to be on the agenda, and Lindsay thought it was a great idea, and it could go, and Max did, and Megan did, and Lori wanted to discuss it in committee, and so we sent it to the committee before it came to the meeting, and so.
A good reason for sending something like this to committee that's somewhat time sensitive. That's what I don't understand.
I'm not catching most of what people are saying right now.
If he's on the Finance Committee and wants to talk about it, then.
I guess I'm confused on what they're.
I mean, it's just the right thing to do.
This is something that all districts are doing right now, taking advantage of this interest rate. I mean, why would we spend more money to save money? I'm just confused.
Is that a private placement, bird in the hand? We've done this is normal procedure. Done it plenty of times before. No extension of debt.
I'm saying if Ken wants to talk about it, I'll support his desire to talk about it. To have a discussion.
And what do you want the finance committee to review with it? I lost
Sorry,
somebody.
Max, was that a
Yeah.
question for me? I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Can you repeat what you said? He asked what you wanted to review, Ken.
Just trying to understand.
Max, can you repeat the question? I apologize. I can't hear you.
I'm just asking what you're hoping to accomplish with a finance committee review.
Oh, I just would like to discuss what some of the options are. Kevin can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that there are multiple options for the district and not just this only option.
You are limited to what you can do on a refunding without going through a reauthorization of the bonds. You have to stay within the footprint of the bonds that are outstanding. You have to show savings in each and every year. So it's not necessarily, we couldn't go out and say, instead of paying it off in 10 years like we are now, we want to pay it off in 15 without going through a total reauthorization of the bonds.
Can we reduce the number of years?
You can, but I think you're already kind of getting tight on your sales tax to coverage factors. And if in fact sales tax in some areas have been progressed, we just had a study done by an independent planner that does those kind of things for Springfield District, and they're forecasting a drop in sales tax revenue of 25% for 2021, and then a drop for 2022 for 2020, a drop of 25%, and for 2021, a drop of 15% from where we were in 19. So you would have just added to your, potential funding issue if you tried to, double its payments by going from 10 years to 5 years.
Do we have to use an alternative revenue source general obligating bond?
The only other format you could use would be a debt certificate, and you probably would not get as good an interest rate. You get the same interest rate here on a 10-year alternate bond that you got a month ago on a 5-year debt certificate.
So procedurally, these are the sort of questions I have. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for us to move to.
But do you understand that you're going to reduce the savings by doing that?
And how we are going to lose the savings by doing that.
Well, we risk losing it.
You already have all the documents and they have to be all redone. So the more cost, and then we may not get this, in that our lender may not give us the 1.98 if we extend it.
And we as a board gave the authority to do that. I don't know what the vote was on it, but we previously discussed was going out to be taken care of.
When did we as a board vote on this?
We didn't vote, it was discussion. Yeah, yes.
Let me ask Kevin to do
It was a consensus.
it. So it was a consensus.
Have a motion on the floor.
All right, so we've got a motion to take this to committee, and it's been seconded. Dawn, can we have a roll call vote on that?
Larson,
No.
Rick,
Jeremy, a vote on the motion to take it to committee? That was a no.
That was a no. Giles?
No.
Hennessy? Keith? Keith?
Ken? Yes.
Schultz?
Yes.
Okay, McComb?
No. Okay, are there any alternate motions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution for providing the issue of the obligating funds.
Okay, there's a motion, a second. Further discussion on that?
Kevin, if,
Why we made these bonds non-callable instead of callable, like the bonds are that we're replacing them with. And we got the same rate just last month for callable bonds, but these are non-callable. Seems like callable are preferred to us, gives us more flexibility, and the bonds we're replacing them with are actually callable.
Kevin, can you comment on callability and non-callability?
Yeah, the reason we negotiated the callability and in fact, probably why you didn't get a lower interest rate at that time was because the thought was you were going to receive some grant money and wanted to be able to pay those off early. Your rate would have likely been a little bit lower had you not had all provision in there. Years is pretty much the standard in the industry for a call. Anything less than 10 years, you're going to pay up in terms of interest rate that would have eaten into your savings.
We are flexibility if we, so we're not just saving money, we're saving money and losing our district flexibility on this entire bond.
The flexibility would matter if it was a 10% bond, but it's a less than 2% bond.
Right now, it's only a 4%, so, but we are callable.
Kevin, is the current bond callable or no?
The bond you're refunding is callable as of June 1st. It was a 10-year call. That is very typical in the bond industry. Bondholders buy bonds because they want income and they want known income.
Right.
Know that people only call those bonds away 90% of the time when interest rates are lower, and therefore I have to take my money, and now instead of getting 4%, I'm only going to get 2%. So it's a cost to me to have a call feature in there. So the call feature doesn't come free. You will pay for the call feature. You'll pay for the fact that the bondholder is now assuming the risk that interest rates go lower than they are today, which are still at very historically low levels. So I think that's a very, from your side, a very small risk to take. But the bondholder, that's just kind of the standard in the industry, and something less than that you do pay up for.
so Kevin, can you explain why just last month we were able to get the same rate with a callable debt certificate? Do you feel we couldn't get a callable debt certificate for this amount?
Not at that rate for 10 years. You're talking about it twice the length of time, Ken.
What rate do you think you would expect to see?
I think you'd probably see at least a 0.5% higher.
And can you do a non-alternative revenue source?
The only thing you can do is a debt certificates. That's the only other thing you could do.
So we have to do alternative revenue source.
You don't have statutory authority to issue bonds just for any purpose. You have to follow the state statutes as far as what's available.
I do know this. I know there's a lot more volatility in rates right now than there was 60 days ago.
Tremendous amount more volatility.
We're seeing that tremendously in the mortgage market.
So can I call the question?
Kenny, you got another question?
Yes. Can you explain how we still will have Series 2010? That bond will stay in place for 95,000?
No, it won't. That maturity is not callable. What's due 6/1, you will, because it's not callable. The call date is as of June 1st, so you already have to pay that June 1st maturity. Okay? Your only bonds due 2021 through 2030, those 10 bonds at 10 years. So when you have a
Resolution, this resolution says that it provides for a levy of a direct annual tax if the pledged revenues are insufficient to cover. We heard last month that under the very worst case scenario, we have plenty of money to cover everything and millions of dollars to spare. And so is this asking that if for some reason we don't have this, that we're going to raise taxes on people?
all alternate revenue bonds, including the one you have outstanding now, have to have a backup tax levy. That's a requirement of the alternate revenue bond. You abate that levy every year as you're required to with the pledged revenues. So if the sales tax money is there, you have to abate it. You have made a first lien, a first class of the sales tax money to your alternate revenue bonds. So they get paid before you do any other projects cash with your sales tax money. That's the promise you made when you issued the bonds to the holders and to your taxpayers. These alternate revenue bonds went through a backdoor petition process, and you had to notify the taxpayers, these are the revenue sources we're pulling. If those revenue sources are not sufficient, there will be a tax levy to make up the difference.
This is decreasing the amount that we would have to pay back out of that sales tax amount.
Right. So the tax levy that's on file, the tax levy that's
With the interest rate, I guess I'm trying to figure out what's going on, because you just told us that there's expected to be a 25% reduction in sales tax, but we heard just a month ago that the very worst case scenario was a 20% reduction. And so are we going to end up having to raise taxes to cover these bonds?
this is going to be in a better position than you would be otherwise. You're actually lowering your tax levy. The levy that's on file now goes away, and a new levy goes on file with a small. So you're actually lowering the tax levies that are on file as a part of the refunding. I'm just telling you what was done in a study by PGAV planners for the Springfield School District and their recent sales tax issue. Not to say that other people don't have different estimates, and not to say that Champaign County is going to be totally different than Sangamon County.
Right. Where does the extra $35,000 go?
The extra $35,000.
I believe that the last time I saw the Series 2010 bonds, there was a balance of $1,295,000. We have to pay the $95,000, meaning we have to pay $1.2 million to pay off the balance of 2010 minus the 95,000. But this proposal is for $1,235,000. Seems like those don't add up to me. There's something else happening with the 35,000.
Well, you have to pay $1,207,330 on July 18th when the bonds can be called. You have to give a 30-day call notice starting today, and there's 31 days in May. So the bond, this goes back to some of the difficulties you've had with Wells Fargo as your registrar, but they're making you not allowing you to call the bonds until July 18th. So you've got a month and 18 days of interest, which is $7,000 on the $1.2 million. And then the residual amount is what's going to cover your cost of issuance. You have to pay the bond attorneys and folks like us. So you have cost of issuance involved too, which are all factored into the net savings though. The net savings is still the $165,000.
Mhm. I'm wondering why the resolution has so many blanks in it.
Which particular pages are you talking about?
Like page 133, resolution providing for the issue of dollar blank general obligation.
That's because it just got sold when we had to have the resolution in the board packet, so that's not the final one.
That's just a draft of the resolution. Heather has the final one with all the numbers filled in.
Yes.
What got sold?
The bonds you had to have the bids come in from the banks to know who was going to get bonds, to know what the interest rate was, so we could fill in all those numbers. And so at the time your board packet went out, those bids weren't back yet.
I guess I thought when those numbers came back, we would be provided with the.
I got them today. I can send you guys the resolution, but it's just basically the 165,000 in savings.
So where did that 35,000 come from again? Because that was going to be one of my questions.
It's the sum of what you need in order to pay off the bonds plus your cost of issuance. So you need an extra $7,000 and some change for your interest. And then you have your cost of issuance. Let me get to that page. Too far. Your cost of issuance of $22,800, and then you also have an extra $4,869 coming back to you as additional savings as well. That makes up the 165. So cost of issuance are 22,000 and $1,200,369 is what has to go to pay off the bonds.
Could we use some of our fund balance to pay part of this off?
I don't know why we would do that right now when we're worried about our funding in the future. I just don't think that would be prudent.
Can't you do the educational?
We have to use. Could we even legally do that, Max? I think we would have to use the capital projects fund, wouldn't we?
It would be the sales tax money. It would be the same thing.
Sales tax.
So in the red flag report, we've got a $500,000 in the capital projects. Would it make sense to use any of that money?
That's factored into the field house project.
That's some of the money that we're using for our.
The $500,000 in the capital project fund is slated towards the field house project, correct? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, and you'll notice I had to do, which is normal this time of year, I had to supplement the operating funds. I would not suggest paying anything or using any of our fund balance at this point.
Okay, if there's no further questions, can we have a vote on the motion, please?
Hennessy, Hennessy,
Sorry, I was muted. Yes.
Schultz, Schultz,
Present.
Keefe,
Yes.
Giles,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
McComb.
Yes. Do we have any additional communication from visitors?
I do.
Okay.
Just got an email this is from Trent Nuxel. Mr. Nuxel writes, Mr. Keefe needs to accept the fact that the municipal bond professionals and school finance professionals know more than he does. I implore him to trust the professional recommendations of Mr. Hyde and Mrs. Smith. When he's pushing back against these professionals, making recommendations on saving a significant amount of money, I question his judgment on the finance committee and the school board overall. That's it.
Okay, anything else from anybody? Okay. At this time, a closed session is necessary for number one, the discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act, or for the purposes of approval by the body of the minutes, or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated in section 2.06. Number two, student disciplinary cases. Number three, collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees, or the representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. Is there a motion to go into closed session for these reasons?
Max, before we make that motion, can we take a vote on the school board schedule, please?
On what?
On the school board schedule? Jeremy had made a motion and Lori had seconded it, and I had made an amendment, and Megan had seconded it, and we took a vote. That vote would have been on the amendment. We still need to vote on the main motion in order to vote in the schedule for the school board.
I thought we approved it as amended.
That's what I did. I thought we voted it approved as amended with the I wrote everything in my calendar based upon what I thought we voted on. September 14th was going to be the budget hearing, the 21st.
There was an amendment to the motion to amend the schedule, and we approved
Amending
that.
motion, you have to vote on the amendment to say that we're amending the motion as amended, and then you have to vote on the main motion. You just have to take another vote.
Does this need to be a roll call vote or is it a voice vote? Oh, I thought we had that matter taken care of, but I'm abundance of caution. Let's go back to the calendar. We voted to make the September 14th study session a budget hearing. It was my impression we were approving the rest of the calendar. Evidently, it was maybe not the case. So with that change made then, can we have a roll call vote on the calendar with that change? Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Schultz,
Yes.
Giles,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Keefe,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
McComb.
Yes. Okay.
And I'll make the
Is there a
motion
roll
for
call?
closed session.
Okay. Motion to go to closed session for those reasons is made. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. We have a roll call vote, please.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
Schultz, Larson,
Yes.
Giles,
Yes.
Keefe,
Yes.
McComb.
Yes, all right. So we are going to go into closed session, public. We are not anticipating any business at the conclusion of closed session. We will have to come back on the public link to adjourn the meeting, however. So I'd ask everyone on the board to log off of this particular WebEx and go back to the closed session link and log back on, and we will start back up in about 5 minutes in closed session. Thank you, everybody.